all being in this crossover event on CW for Crisis on Infinite Earths. This is gonna be nuts. So let me know what you guys think about this down below in the comments. And last up, we have the next topic for the day. This is the last topic we're going to talk about. J.J. Abrams' bidding war won by Warnermedia as Bad Robot nears 500 million partnership. So this might sound like a bunch of gobbledygook and not make any sense to you guys. If this does not make any sense, let me clarify. This is J.J. Abrams, the guy that did Star Wars, The Force Awakens, and he's doing Star Wars Episode 9, not The Last Jedi. And he also did the Star Trek films. This guy is a big-time nerd, and he has his own production company that he runs with his wife called Bad Robot. Bad Robot was just bought by Warnermedia, which is the parent company of DC. So DC now has a sort of direct relationship with Warnermedia. Warner and DC are effectively one entity, effectively. And Warner now owns Bad Robot. Why is this important? Why am I saying this? This is obviously, and of course, this is not even new news. This came out in June, but I wanted to mention it now because there's been a lot of talks and rumblings about J.J. Abrams possibly being the next guy to do a Superman movie. Why is this the rumor? Because, so first, before we get into that, let me just say, I'll just read this and you guys can take it from there. It says, Bad Robot, the production company Abrams runs with his wife and co-CEO Katie McGrath, had been fielding offers from pretty much every major media company at one point or another. It says the sweepstakes to land a massive overall deal with Bad Robot that the famed production company run by J.J. Abrams and his wife and co-CEO Katie McGrath is nearing the finish line. Following a months-long courting process that included multiple suitors, Warnermedia is in the final negotiations with the partnership with Bad Robot. Sources say it's unclear how many years the new agreement is for, and the deal that would keep Abrams and the company he called home since 2006 has not been finalized. But remember, this is as of June. It is now finalized. It says, still sources have estimated that any new pact for Bad Robot could be valued in the 500 million vicinity. When all is said and done, that would be the deal at the top of the recent wave of 9-figure pacts for prolific producers, including Greg Berlanti, 400 million from Warner Bros. TV, Ryan Murphy, 300 million from Netflix, and Sonda Rhimes from 100 million from Netflix. And it says, under the deal, Abrams and company will continue to create and develop new projects for Warner. Catch that? Abrams and the company will continue to create and develop new projects for Warnermedia and supervise other producers across film, TV, and digital platforms. Sources say the process of moving Bad Robot's future film deal over to Viacom-owned Paramount Pictures has already begun. Representatives for Warnermedia and Bad Robot declined comment. This was back then. And so now, and even back then it was saying that it was looking like Warner is getting it, and Warner has since got it. And this is very interesting because of the next topic we have. Did you guys know that J.J. Abrams once had a Superman movie in development? So J.J. Abrams had Superman Flyby, which was his Superman movie. And it says here, before he did Star Trek or Star Wars, long before the DCEU, J.J. Abrams wrote an epic Superman movie, and it very nearly happened. It almost happened. Let's go ahead and read this. Long before Henry Cavill put on the tights for the Man of Steel and Justice League, he was very nearly cast as Kal-El in a different attempt to revitalize the Superman legend on the big screen. In 2002, J.J. Abrams was enjoying some acclaim thanks to the Felicity and Alias TV shows, but he was still years removed from the career-changing Lost and Mission Impossible 3, let alone the Star Wars saga. On July 26, 2002, Abrams delivered the first draft of the screenplay titled simply Superman. And it says, I've read both of Abrams' drafts of the project, and they're a lot of fun. And that, of course, is this guy's opinion. But it says, Abrams' Superman was written in the wake of a series of failed attempts to bring the character back to the big screen after canon films, disappointing and low budget Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, all the way back in 1987. So that one, if you guys don't know, Superman 4, The Quest for Peace was the last of the Christopher Reeve Superman films, and it sucked. Bad, and it lost, I think it lost a lot of money, but it said during that time the franchise had scripts written by writers and diverse as William Wisher, Dan Gilroy, who recently found acclaim with Nightcrawler, and most famously Kevin Smith. You guys know him, he's a big nerd. It says all of which dealt with in some form or another with the death of Superman storyline from the comics, which had generated endless publicity and stellar sales between 1992 and 1993. That iteration was, I'm spoiling this, was supposed to have Nick Cage. And it did at first, but it didn't end up getting made. It said Tim Burton was attached to direct for several years, and he developed the project for his intended Superman, Nicolas Cage, that then at the peak of his blockbuster success in the wake of The Rock and Con Air. It says, once these projects fell apart, Warner Bros. Opted for a different take on the mythology. As a matter of fact, 2 iterations, that is. And it says one of the projects that we're discussing here, the other was Batman vs. Superman, Asylum, written by Seven or Sezen with a 7 in the middle, scribe Andrew Kevin Walker, with Enemy Mine directing, Wolfgang Peterson set to direct, and I wrote much more about that on this other article is what this guy's saying here. It says, why reinvigorate one franchise when you can do 2 at once, right? Well, while that movie was never to be, Warner Bros. Clearly decided to save its concept for a rainy day. A look at Abrams' first draft, which entered various stages of pre-production under the working title Superman Flyby, reveals many of the same elements which years later would make his Star Trek reboot and financial, albeit polarizing, success. Like he did in Star Trek, Abrams leaves little to chance, making sure that every element of Superman's origin is significant, perhaps too significant, while every relationship is introduced and explained in almost excruciating detail. These incidents of Abrams over-explaining are peppered throughout the draft. Ty Zor is essentially General Zod, but instead of a mere rival, he's Superman's angrier cousin. Clark's glasses aren't a disguise. They're custom made with lead spec lenses to help the young boy control his vision powers. Clark Kent is a college senior with an undeclared major until he runs into a feisty journalism student named Lois Lane at a frat party, thereby changing the course of his career, as if the stalker criticisms of Superman Returns weren't pointed out enough. Jonathan Kent drops dead of a heart attack when news of Clark's first excursion as Superman reaches him. Jor-El visited Earth decades earlier, to determine whether the Kents were worthy of raising his son. You get the picture. And so that's the gist of kind of the story. And like Man of Steel, Superman Flyby shows off a Krypton full of giant robots, war suits, and toy-ready weapons known as blast staffs, wielded skillfully by decidedly proactive Jor-El, and described as a king at one point in a draft. Abrams offers copious notes throughout the script, going beyond commentary, characterization, and stage directions into musical cues and other suggestions in what would have been a refreshing twist. One of his notes reads, all scenes on Krypton are spoken in Kryptonian, an actual language we will develop, and calling for subtitles during important passages of dialogue. That actually sounds very meticulously detailed and very much like J.J. Abrams. I'm not going to go ahead and get into all of these details, but what it is saying here is that J.J. Abrams freaking loves Superman. He is all about making a Superman film. He has been for years, and he was responsible for making Henry Cavill get noticed as Superman, by the way. That was his first audition as Superman, was at J.J. Abrams' project, and they ended up not making the film, so he ended up showing up later for the Man of Steel, and that worked out. But this was kind of a Superman turning point here, was this project. It kind of started to open the door for, hey, there's different ways we can tell the story. We've told it pretty much the same way for a few years in a row. Let's change it up a little bit. And I think the only exception to that was really Dean Cain. But after that, you know, they really wanted to take it in a new light. And so I hope that Man of Steel 2 comes as a result. Now, you guys can start to piece this together. J.J. Abrams' production company was just bought by Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers just picked up Bad Robot. See that? Bad Robot right there. And now we have the reminder that Superman Flyby was a project that he did. I'm not saying we're going to get Superman Flyby, guys. Don't mistake me here. I don't think it's going to be Superman Flyby, but I do think that J.J. Abrams will be eager to pick up where Zack Snyder has left off. So I predicted a while ago on my Brightburn trailer video that James Gunn would be offered the role of Man of Steel 2, and I thought he should take it. His work on Brightburn, even though it was very low budget, he did an amazing job with that film. It was crazy. It was bonkers. It's dark. It's ridiculous. Hard to watch at certain points, but you can't take your eyes off of it. Very James Gunn. And with this project, Man of Steel 2, no one wants to touch it because no one knows how to write for Superman. It's very difficult, and it's an existing IP that has an existing an existing storyline that functions within the greater universe of the DCEU, which has problems. And, you know, there's a lot of, is Ben Affleck, you know, he's already gone. Who's going to take his place? Do they have to adjust for age and timeline? What's gonna happen? So, and DC's already got their hands full with a whole slate of films that are not Superman. So how are they going to make this work? James Gunn's going to be too busy doing Suicide Squad 2 and then going to Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Who knows what he's going to do after that? And if he doesn't come back and say, you know what, maybe I will do Man of Steel 2, I think J.J. Abrams not only could do it, I think he should do it. And now he totally can do it because they own him. So effectively, his studio, his production company, now is owned by Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers is DC. So you have DC, Warner Brothers working with J.J. Abrams. This is an open door, guys, and I don't think that that's a coincidence. I think that part of that conversation was, hey, JJ, we would really like you to be the person that mans up to the Man of Steel and takes the second film. I don't see why that's not part of the conversation. I think that that's probably the logical next step. And if you guys agree with me, if you think that the guy that did Star Wars and Star Trek and Lost should have a crack at Man of Steel 2, let me know down in the comments. A lot of people want Zack Snyder to come back and just do it again. I love Man of Steel. I think that was a great film. I would love to see if he could do it again. I would love to see James Gunn take it. I would love to see maybe James Cameron take it, or J.J. Abrams. So any of these guys to me are a huge win, but it looks like we found an open door here. So maybe still it'll probably be another 4 years, 3 years, 5 years. Probably not 3 years. It's probably 5 years. But nevertheless, I'm excited. What do you guys think about this news about the purchase of Bad Robot by Warner Brothers and about J.J. Abrams having a deep and connected history with Superman, the character, and projects he has written and worked on and tried to get off the ground before? Do you think that this will pan out? Do you think he's going to try it again and maybe try a fresh, revamped, updated script to fit the DCEU and carry on where Zack Snyder left off? Let me know in the comments. So that is pretty much all that I had for you guys today. So that is the last of these things I wanted to show for you. So let me know down in the comments what you have to say about these. Like, share, subscribe. Turn on notifications if you haven't already so you can be alerted right away when I go live next time. That way you guys can be part of the comments. Now, before I go on, I want to share with you guys what is happening here in the comment section of this video. So let's go ahead and pick up. Anthony Manzano says, hi. He says, I have a question. Who came first, the Arrow or Clint Barton? Oh, that's like, you mean in comics? Because I believe Clint Barton was before in live action, unless you count Smallville. But I don't